Today on the Income Flip, I've got my brother from another mother, Nhan Lam, with us today. Nhan, what's up, man?
Hey man, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Dude, it's long overdue to have you
Long
on
overdue.
on the podcast. Just to give everybody some context. Oh man, I want to say like 17 years ago, 15 years ago, like a while ago, you stumbled into our little investment meetup. It wasn't called Grid at the time. It's just, I think it was called the Casa Investor Network, right? It was kind of named after our investment company, real estate company. And you and your wife were the ones that were paying attention, asking lots of questions, showing up consistently, and then doing the thing, right? And here we are a decade plus later on the podcast featuring you. Just goes to show you time on task over time, man. So welcome to the Income Flip.
Thanks, man.
So let's explore your background, right? What did you do before real estate?
I was working for the government. I have a master's in aerospace engineering, so I did all the right things in corporate America. Worked at NASA, worked at DHS, DOD, did all the great things, and actually had a very high six-figure salary at a very young age in my 20s. And did all those right things, but at the time, but my parents were very big on education. Go to school, get good grades, and go get a good job. I did all those things, right? And I thought the key to success was to be smart, right? But Rob, what would you rather say? I am smart or I is a millionaire? So I
100%.
chose the latter.
100%. Yeah. And so you cut the cord. You cut the cord when you just had like a little one, I think, on the way, right? Or like
Yes.
tell us about your family, right? How did you decide to do this? Because you, if I remember correctly, you had a lot of responsibilities and you
Yeah.
went completely cold turkey.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have five kids. My wife and I think if I remember correctly, when we went to your boot camp back in 2011, I think my wife was pregnant, if I remember correctly, right?
That's
So,
right. She was
uh,
pregnant.
yes, she was always pregnant when you saw her, right? So we had a family raising kids, and one of our visions was to not only help my parents retire, but also be able to be there as stay-at-home parents for my kids. That's our biggest vision for ideal designed life for raising a family, right? We want to be there. My parents rarely were there for me when I was growing up, and they had no choice. They just immigrated from Vietnam, and they did what they could to take care of me and my four other siblings. And they did what they knew, right? Their English was broken. They, knew what they knew. But later on, I kind of valued that a little. I valued the time I had with my parents because it was so limited.
Hmm.
And I want to give my kids the experience of having the parents there to be able to raise them, not let social media or their friends or peers raise them or their neighbors raise them, but actually let their parents raise them with good core values, morality, moral values, and also entrepreneurship values that they normally wouldn't learn in school, right?
Hmm.
So that was the vision we had. So we were really hungry. I mean, before we met you, we actually went to different training classes. I think we went to, if I remember correctly, went to Rich Dad's class. We went to a number of other classes, paid thousands of dollars,
Hmm.
and got some good material, but didn't have anything actionable. Mostly because there was no one local to help us kind of guide us to the differences of Northern Virginia compared to the rest of the country, right? And it wasn't until one of my coworkers back at DHS told me that they were flipping houses, and I said, "Please tell me more. Let me take you out to lunch." And they told me all about what they were doing, some deals in Falls Church. They told me about you and your meetup group. So shortly after that, I went to your meetup group, and I think that was the month before you had your very first rehabbing boot camp.
I think
So
so.
I think
Yeah.
all the stars were aligned, and looked at my wife. I said, "I think this is it." We went ahead and registered right away, and went to the boot camp. I think it was in January the following year.
You know what I remember?
Um,
What I remember about that is that you came and you recorded the whole thing.
yes,
Dude, do you have that recording?
I still do.
That would be fun to go back and look at a young Robin Mark, right, in the thing. That's cool.
And a young Jan and a pregnant Mary Rose, right? Yes, it was an incredible event. I mean, Mark, I believe it was your very first boot camp.
It
So
was the first
obviously,
one.
it wasn't the perfect thing, but we got what we needed, mostly because of the sense of relationship that we can build with you and Mark, right?
Hmm.
Maybe some things weren't, it was the first time. First time is always the worst time, right? But we got
Yeah.
what we needed. We found that we can trust you guys, work, and you guys knew what you were doing. You're local, your heart was there, and Mary Rose and I just went ahead and took it and ran with it, and was we just took the material and ran as fast as we could.
Yeah, I was saying perfect action is better than no action, right? I remember talking to Mark and like, Mark, you're killing them. You're just going on and on and on about, I mean, Mark loves to explain things three
Right.
different ways, the same thing three different ways. I'm like, dude, you're
That's
killing me,
right.
man, killing me. But that's what makes him thorough. That's why
That's
he's our
right.
chief risk officer, right?
Right.
So, so you started doing deals, right? You started doing deals, first fix and flips, or did you start with assignments first? I can't remember.
We did our first deal was fix and flip.
Okay, okay. Did you make money or lose money on that one?
We made money.
Okay.
That's a very good one. I think if I remember correctly, we competed with Yukiko that year for the what was it the best deal award or
Oh,
something
the
like that.
best deal of the year award. That's cool. Within the group.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So that was fun.
So you made money on that first deal, and then obviously, it hooks you. It hooks you. What have you learned since when it comes to building an investment practice?
Well, I mean, my first deal, it was really grunt work, like pure grunt force. There was like no system in place, right? Because I was
Hmm.
just hungry and just wanted to get a deal done to put some money in the bank. And then shortly after that, I said, you know what? I need a better system because at that time, I had a newborn and I also was working still on my full-time job. So I was part-time doing real estate investing. And I said, well, if I'm going to succeed as part-time to replace my full-time income, I'm going to have to need a good system to where I can accomplish more with less time, less effort. So I started creating templates. I started having a good system for marketing, networking, having other bird doggers out there with me, having a good system of contractors and title companies and attorneys, and building the team basically to be able to establish ourselves as a dominant force in the market. And it wasn't for, about a year and a half after that first deal was where I was comfortable leaving my full-time job, cut the umbilical cord, buy my own health insurance, right? Take care of the family off the business income that we're earning and having reserves in place for a rainy day because
Hmm.
in business, there's always ups and downs, right?
Hmm.
So we were
Hmm.
prepared for that. And what we learned was accomplishing more with less effort, creating systems in place, and not working, in your business so much as working on your business to make sure that it produces income, whether you're there or not down the road. So fix and flip obviously is an earned income, right? You got to be
Hmm.
there to make it work. And as we start storing up cash flow and additional capital, we then proceeded on building other businesses and looking at rental properties and stuff more that's more passive.
Hmm. Hmm. Let, let's go back real fast to talk about, because there's somebody listening to this podcast right now thinking about, right, cutting the cord and leaving their job, for a career as a real estate investor. And you alluded to it. You kind of have to create 30, 60, 90-day money, right? Active income in order to do it. And there's some different options you could do. You could be an agent, you could be a wholesaler, you could be a fix and flipper, you could do construction, right? There's different ways to create that earned income. But the number one thing is you got to learn how to market and you got to learn how to sell. How did you get those first few deals? Where did they come from? And what's been
There
your
were
best lead gen source?
Yes, so originally it was all from a network. I spent $0 on marketing other than my sweat equity. So I went to
Hmm.
all the meetups I could, especially the one in Reston that you guys were running at the time with Kaza. On my internal Rolodex with my friends and family, asking, "Hey, do you know anyone who needs to sell their house in the next 90 days?"
Hmm.
And then my first deal, the one in Manassas, was actually from a friend of a friend.
Hmm.
And that's how my first deal came. My second deal was actually from someone that I met at the Kaza Wrestling Group, right? He
Hmm.
referred me to that for sale by owner, and that person who was my second deal eventually led me to about three, four, five, if I remember correctly, six other deals in the next, probably once every year for the next 5 years from
Okay.
that one contact because I took that guy out for coffee and built a relationship. I sent him referrals. He was a mortgage broker. Sent
Hmm.
him referrals. He sent me referrals, and we are working with each other
Hmm.
and my third and fourth deal with all from a network. It wasn't until probably my second year after I actually left my full-time job was when I actually started spending money on marketing
Yeah.
and being more smart with it. So that way it will come in whether I'm working or not.
We teach this concept, and you know this, called zone. And the O in zone is own the mind share of your particular market that you're going after. There's only three ways to own the mind share. You're going to prospect for it, you're going to network for it, and then you're going to market for it. And marketing is always like paid marketing is always last in that. I see so many investors start with paid marketing before they even know how to sell and convert. So they're
Right.
spending money and they don't know how to quite sell and convert just yet. So you got to get out there and you got to prospect and you got to network and you got to learn the sales game. People don't realize there's a big sales component to this.
Right.
So good to hear that you started on the really the networking side, right? You were
Right.
farming your network and you got your
Yeah.
first couple deals
Because I
out.
like to say, if you can't prospect, you probably won't be able to do cold sales.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you've got to essentially make a stranger a friend at that point.
Right.
Okay, so what does the business look like today? Like fast forward us to today.
Yeah, absolutely. Every few years, we add something new in our portfolio. So after I left my full-time job, I said, you know what, Rob, you're doing a great thing here in Reston. I hope you don't mind, but I'll ask for forgiveness later. But I'm going to start my own meetup group with your name on it, okay? In Haymarket, Virginia.
Love it. Yeah, 100%.
I mean, with our relationship at the time, I'm sure it's like, you know what, I gotta help Rob catch this vision here because what you guys were doing was such a good thing, and I knew that everyone needed to see what you guys were doing. So I said,
Hmm.
oh, you know what, let's create one. I'll invite Rob to our holiday party, show him what we got, and hopefully it's good. And then we were grid leaders for a while after that, right? So shortly after that, creating that networking group, we created an education company where we started doing boot camps and mentorships and things like that, and got a great, great lead flow from our students, right? So still all organic, no paid marketing. We train them what we know, create our system that I create for a part-time person. And it was very attractive to people who are, still have a full-time IT job, or maybe they're a full-time agent, right? You got to work to earn their commissions, but they want to do something part-time to build their portfolio of wealth, right? Other business owners and other middle-class Americans who are in corporate America, that was very attractive to them. So we were making a killing on the educational boot camps, not from the training fees, but from the fact that work with them afterwards to cultivate them and helping them do deals. So we make most of our profits and revenue from doing deals with our students versus the training fee. The
Got it.
training fee is just to get you in the door, because
Yeah, it just
obviously
shows commitment. Just shows that
that's right.
somebody's committed to the craft.
Exactly.
Right.
If they're always gonna ask for free advice, they're probably not gonna do anything, right?
That's
So
right.
the fact that they invested in themselves means something. It shows they're taking it seriously, and we really worked hard with those people to make them successful. So we always say that their success is our success. And shortly after that, we created our first capital raising firm to raise capital to be able to do a small hard money type business and second position and first position and so forth.
Hmm.
And then we had a construction company that we created during COVID because we had a lot of deals in flight. Material costs were killing us. So I
Hmm.
said, you know what, we got to cut out the GC. And so I hired an operator and they managed everything for that for a while. And then, and now we have a fund that we're raising for to do larger deals with land development, multifamily, commercial deals, and so forth. So it's every couple years we progress into something more advanced, something newer for the purposes of spending less, I mean, spending same amount of time, but achieving more results for the ultimate goal of retiring with a portfolio of passive income that we can leave to our kids to manage. One day we're going to leave. We want to be able to pass this on so that way they can grow it for their generation and then their kids' generation as well.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've learned on the journey is that it's hard to be all things to all people, right? You have to kind of choose what's the main lever you gotta make your money on. What's the main business? Certainly, you could have other vertically integrated businesses, and you do need to have good operators for those. But that's hard, right? Like you've got to find the right operator. You've got to oversee that operator. You got to manage that operator. That unless you're giving somebody maybe ownership stake in there, it can be difficult, right? So, do you still have that construction business, or did you kill it, or I just find when people are doing multiple businesses, it distracts from the main thing. Like, what's
Yes.
been your experience?
That's a great question. So and this is not just for construction only, but in construction, for example, we did have an operator for a while. He was doing really good, but unfortunately, he had some kind of a no, not to say in the bad, but he had some kind of a mental health issue that
Yeah.
didn't let him operate very optimally. So obviously he was let go. And then God bless him. Hope he gets better. But we're in transition right now from construction company from doing fix and flip deals because that's what we were doing for all the
Hmm.
customers into something more larger deals such as larger construction scales, community development, large scale townhome constructions, 50 townhomes, one of the projects we're looking at right now. Multi-family deals that are built from the ground up in DC, mixed use, condo conversions that is designed to rent out, not to sell, because condos are a killer right now in DC,
Hmm.
but to rent
Hmm.
out in Section 8 or maybe to the retail market, or maybe short-term rentals as well. So I know short-term rentals are not allowed in DC, but there's a way around it. That's a whole nother topic though. So that's
Okay.
a that's a whole nother thing that we can that we're targeting right now. It's larger scale projects where it's not $100,000 or $200,000 construction project anymore, but these are more like two, three, four, $5 million projects. Again, larger scale, but same effort, right?
Well,
But
who's then gonna run that? Because that's not you, is it?
no,
Or are
that's
you?
not me.
Okay.
I am actually in the process of working with someone right now who actually used to work for Express Home Buyers, their
Okay.
construction company. He's working at another, he's a director of operations for another company right now, but we've been in talks. We've worked well together in the past. We have a very good network. And he's actually going to be, we're looking to create a company solely for that purpose there, where he's going to be managing all the day-to-day operations, making sure all the subs are in line, making sure that the site people are doing their job, making sure everything's running smoothly, and also having the estimation process, the systems, and all things going. My sole responsibility is to be a good ambassador in business development because we
Got
have
it.
a large network of our own, and I'm very good at building trust with other folks, showing the portfolio what we've done already, how we can help them. And then once we get someone who's interested, we'll just pre-qualify what they got, make sure they're not one of the ones who are more experienced, not the first timer, and someone who's easy to work with, and their capital is in good form. Sometimes I've worked with investors where they run out of money and then the project stops. Right? I hate
Yep.
stopping a project because it costs so much to start it again, right? With a lot of time and money. So I want to work with someone with good liquidity, and they're looking for someone who can lead them to success without much drama, right? So there's a lot of contractors there that they call you, they curse at you, say, hey, da da da, I need a decision. We are a premium construction company that will be looking at larger projects for these clients who just want turnkey, and they want to look for other deals. That's their sole focus. They don't want to manage a day-to-day job. They want someone to do it for them so they can look for other deals and manage their assets accordingly.
Are you then, if you would you say that your main active income side is going to be the construction business, or is it the raising of capital and managing the projects
Great
business?
question. So it's going to be the raising capital. All right. So that's
Got
my
it.
sole personal focus right now, because it's something new that I've never done before. Raising $100 million, I've never done that before. I've raised
Hmm.
two, three, 4, 5 billion here and there, but never nine figures. Right. So my goal is to focus on that, learn from that, meet the right people to accomplish that. But then as I raise this money, I want to be able to get different pieces of the process as well, construction being one of them. So I want to set that up. So when we have a project that we're financing or having equity share on, I want to make sure it's risk mitigated by having someone that can control the investment or the project to make sure it's done properly, right? So if I outsource to someone that, or maybe the developer outsource to someone that we don't know, we never use personally, we don't really have a relationship with, it can go either way. But if I have someone who I trust and knows what they're doing, then I can better control to protect my investors' money because of that. And our investors like that because it's vertically integrated in many capacities, and there's control there. And in real estate, if you don't have control, it's very high risk. If you do have control, you can minimize the risk, and there's always risk, but you want to minimize the risk by
Yeah.
having that kind of team set up to have control.
Yeah. Yeah. My only advice on that, not that you're asking for advice, but my only advice on that is, yeah, whoever your operator is has to be like on the ball if you're going to be
Right.
putting your name to it, because now you're managing the money and the construction, and that can create a lot of liability if it's not set up correctly, right?
Absolutely.
You know that.
Absolutely.
You know that. Um,
Absolutely.
let's talk about the market right now, right?
Mhm.
What areas are you focused on?
So our bigger deals are focused in North Carolina
Mm.
and some parts of Virginia as well. So I'm gonna talk about North Carolina first. The reason why I like North Carolina, well, first of all, I went to school down in North Carolina at NC State in Raleigh. I'm very familiar with the area. But the ones that we're doing now is in Fayetteville, where you have Fort Bragg there. The military is expanding based on the current administration of reassigning a lot of U.S. Army folks, officers, back to that area to have the headquarters for with directly underneath the Pentagon, right? So there's a shortage of housing, And the things I love about North Carolina is that unlike Northern Virginia, when you do land development, they don't charge you an arm and a leg for permit fees. They
Mm.
also don't take very long. And they also don't charge you what's called proffers, right? So for those who don't know, proffers is like a fee the county charges that helps pay for the schools, the police, the fire departments, for every lot that you entitle before you sell it off to the builder. So we were looking at one in Bilton, Virginia. That's in Fauquier County, and even in Fauquier County, I believe it's Fauquier County. It's Bilton, whatever county that is. It
Yep.
was $28,000 per lot, and just to pay before anything was built. And so that killed all the margins. It made no sense to do that deal. So we walked away from that. And then we later found the deals in Fayetteville. I asked the first question, how much are the proffers? The proffers were $0. I said, I'm all in. Let's go. And that really because they're incentivized to develop. Unlike
Mhm.
in our area, it's very politically driven,
Yeah, they don't want
and
development.
they don't want development because everyone wants a piece of Northern Virginia, right?
Yeah.
So they feel like that, they don't need developers to make to make a killing. They want to charge a tax on that so they can make more for whatever they use for the county. But in Fayetteville, no, they're very incentivized to develop. The mayor, the city council, they want to develop Fayetteville to be more like Raleigh, for them eventually to have Cheesecake Factory and Costco and a movie theater. Because most of the people who live in Fayetteville had to drive up to Raleigh, which is about 45 minutes away, just to
Oof.
get those services. So
Yeah.
eventually, in the next few years, I can see Fayetteville being maybe similar to Reston.
Interesting. It'll take some time to be
It will
like
take some
Reston.
time.
Reston's huge now.
It is.
But it started just like, a little
Yeah.
cow pasture, pretty much,
Yes. Excellent.
Okay. You've now been doing this actively since 2011. There's probably some lessons that you can share for anybody that is going on this journey, because this is a journey, right? We call this the 7 levels of freedom journey, and there's all these levels, and there's pitfalls and things that happen, and setbacks and landmines, and you know things that happen, right? Economy changes, interest rates change. What are some of the core lessons that you've learned on this journey that you might be able to help guide somebody listening to this right now?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. It was that when I took your boot camp and I looked at my wife and I said, we're going to do this thing. I said, there are going to be times when we're going to be in the valley and not at the peak of the mountain, right? And I said to myself, you know what? Can I find a way to get to that valley as fast as possible so I can get to the higher peak? That was my
Mhm.
mindset, right? Because I know I got
Mhm.
to go through the process, right? So I believe it was my fourth or fifth fix and flip. It was in Arlington, Virginia. That was in 2012. I was still part time, by the way. I was still working my full time job, and we got a great deal in North Arlington, right? We renovated, right? We used a contractor actually that you guys referred to us, and he was really good, and we did all the right things. And then the problem was the reason why that was we didn't make a profit on that one was because there was a similar house across the street that was done by another investor who didn't pull the right permits, actually didn't pull any permits at all. And when they listed it on the market, they listed it, if I remember correctly, they listed it for $699,000 in 2012, right? That's exactly the price we were going to list ours at because our house was identical.
Mhm.
But when they opened it, I had our agent open the house to take a look at it. The first thing I noticed when I walked in the basement was I smelled mold. It's like, oh no, they're not gonna sell this with it smell like mold and mildew and moisture downstairs. And plus, all the finishes they used were very subpar, right? And the design and layout was really weird. The agent didn't take good pictures. They took it with a wide lens. It was blurry. It wouldn't be from your team, Rob. This agent was
Mhm.
horrible, right?
Mhm.
um, and so I immediately contacted the agent just out of courtesy because I want them to do well, so that way we can do well, right? We told them about the mold. We told them about some of the issues we noticed, and it took them a few weeks before someone came out there to address the issue. And they eventually dropped the price 25,000 here and there. They dropped another 25. They eventually dropped a total of $100,000, and they sold it for $150,000 less than the original list price.
Mm.
And at the time that they sold it was right at a time when we were about to hit the market. So that comp killed us. So we were supposed to make $100,000 on that one, but we ended up losing 10,000 or $15,000 on that one. But it was a good lesson learned that you can't really control everybody, right? My lesson learned take away from that: be in position for people to screw up, because you can't control everybody. And if you don't have liquidity, if you don't have a good reserve account, you can't weather the storm.
Yeah.
And in business, there's always a storm that you need to weather. And so if you think it's going to be all good all the time, then that's you're in la la land because there's always going to be a lesson learned. You got to be in position to weather that storm.
So I would make the argument that that comp should not have affected your comp. But if you're saying only because sometimes they just get it wrong, like I see people screw up their pricing, their asset, like all the time, it shouldn't really have all that much bearing on yours, except if this was 2012, I believe, and if it was the summer of 2012, could be wrong, there was a dip in the market because there was that first time home buyer tax credit that occurred, and then it and then it stopped and it pulled back the entire market. In fact, I think that was 2012. I remember talking to a friend of mine that was doing, this is Brad Chandler, who they
Yep.
had a ton of properties on the market and they got clobbered during that time because each one of those assets was now worth 30, 40, $50,000 less. And we've
Right.
got a big portfolio of it. So maybe, that it could have been the market and,
Yep. A
and
combination of.
a combination of those two things. But
Absolutely.
I think the lesson there is always prepare for the unexpected and have the reserves, like you said, that you could weather those storms. So I think that's probably the biggest thing I've seen with investors is that they bite off more than they can chew. They don't
Right.
have enough cash reserves or access to capital. And once that dries up, you're literally like dead in the water.
Right.
You just get stuck, right?
Right.
So anybody listening to this right now, make sure you have your access to capital, whether it's your own or other investors, which is so critical. Your bank, your lines of credit, and
Right.
even when you do all the things right, sometimes, like in 2008,
Mhm.
you could have those lines of credit, and all of a sudden the bank just shuts
Yep.
them down, right? They just like, hey,
Yep.
nobody's getting access to any money, and they just shut it down, right?
Right.
So it's always expecting the unexpected. I always say, what happens if? What happens if? That's the question. What happens if? Well, let's talk a little bit about the evolution of where you see your life and your business going. Like, what's the vision for what you're building? What's it look like at the end?
Yeah, absolutely. I like to say go big or go home, right? So,
Mhm.
we're raising the fund right now, the $100 million. One of the things that really opened my eyes of, obviously we always think big, right? But I like to associate with groups of people where they're already thinking bigger than me because I need to associate myself around those people, right? So my wife and I went to a networking event down in Atlanta, Georgia on Friday of last week, right before the World Cup down there.
Yep.
And man, I met some people that were just decked out. And there's fund managers, there's allocators, there's people they're looking to deploy capital with their own money, high net worth individuals, family offices, and so forth. I met this one gentleman in the hotel. I didn't know who he was, but I was recording a video for my education company, and he just kind of laughed at me because I had to do a couple of takes, right? And so we built a relationship there. I didn't know he was going to be at the event, and he was at the event. He spoke. I found out later that he was one of the sponsors for he sponsored. Get this, Rob. He paid, I think, $75,000 to sponsor the event.
Wow.
Guess how much time he had on stage?
20 minutes.
3 minutes.
Oh,
$75,000 for 3 minutes, right? And basically, all he said
what
was
was the
that he
name
was
of the
doing
event? Where did you go?
Jets and Capital. You look at
Jackson Capital.
jetsandcapital.com. I mean, most people there who were there had their own private jets, had Lamborghinis, Ferraris. I mean, they're very high net worth individuals. But when he went on stage to speak for 3 minutes, he pretty much said, well, I'm doing senior housing, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and all that stuff, right? Minimum investment, $10 million. And he said that if you didn't have $10 million, I'm sorry, I can't waste my time with you. And that's pretty much what his posture was, right? Our fund right now, our minimum investment is 250,000. I thought it was high, and because people were saying, "Well, Jan, I can't do that." It's like, well, now that think about it, maybe I'm talking to the wrong group of people, right? Which is why I'm attending these other events to get access to the right people. People who play golf, people who do this, who do that.
Yeah.
They're into the World Cup, they're into Formula One, they're into some of these like extravagant events. Some events in Mar-a-Lago or some, whatever, where these events are, the huge galas of people just donating hundreds of thousands of dollars because they have it for tax reasons or maybe because they have a good heart. Those are the people I'm looking for, right? So that's why I went there. But my vision is to want to raise this fund because the way we have it is that 80% of the profits for the fund goes to the LPs, the limited partners, those are the investors, and 20% goes to GPs, which includes myself and a bunch of capital raisers and asset managers, right? So the whole idea is that 20% money that we make plus our management fee is going to hold certain assets for long-term holds. And then as we build on that, we'll snowball it. And these are larger numbers. These are not like, $100,000, $200,000 here.
Sure.
These are millions of dollars. We deploy them into these different commercial or cash flowing properties to eventually own them as a majority, and then raise another fund to do the same thing, but now this time business acquisitions, so that we can start owning businesses inside the commercial properties that we're leasing out, right? So that's my vision of being able to get to, and these are businesses we can target that we really want to own in our portfolio that we don't run personally, but there's an operator there that runs it and manages it for us, and then we just cash flow on that, and we, then put in our marketing power to improve the business to let it cash flow better and have increased revenue, improve business systems so that way it runs better, and make it more profitable. So I mean, I want to be the guy or maybe the person to buy a business that's defunct and not running well, mismanaged, and just put some money into it, reassess the systems and how it's run, and then just make it skyrocket, just like if you're fixing and flipping a house, right? So in this case, we're fixing and flipping a business or fixing and flipping a cash flowing asset that is not cash flowing very well.
What is the thesis? Because I heard two things right there, right? I heard you buying properties,
Right.
assets, and then commercial properties, and then maybe some businesses that you guys want to then house in those assets. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
the
are
business,
these
the
are these
business stuff is
retail?
probably.
Are these retail? Are these office commercial?
So in my thought is that we're going to have businesses that are needed in the marketplace, such as, let's say, a barber shop, a restaurant. Those are all needed, right? Auto repair
Sure.
shop, whatever.
Sure.
Those are all needed stuff to service a local area.
Mhm.
So that's my vision, probably 3 to 4 years from now for the business acquisition. Right now, we're focused on the real estate fund to acquire these businesses or acquire these properties, and then improve upon them on the cash flow, so that way we can own them outright later on down the road. And then we can start looking at building another fund for business acquisitions in the same properties that we own.
You just reminded me of something. Um, I want to donate to somebody that's got this well, he supports sports teams, youth sport teams, and you just like triggered that in me because I know you guys do a lot of like supporting of young entrepreneurs, right?
Yes, my
Do you
wife,
want?
yes.
Yeah, your wife does that. Where did that come from? Like, where is her heart around that? I'm
Oh,
curious.
that's a great question. As we're in the time in our lives right now. I mean, our youngest is 13 years old, and they're growing pretty quickly. So we want to give them kind of a legacy of giving back, right? So we want to see them. I mean, we want them to see us giving back to the community, right? So that way one day they can run it, because one day my wife and I won't be here anymore. But
Hmm. Hmm.
we are already doing like entrepreneur training with our kids. Say, you know what? They're having trouble with getting their friends to understand what we're talking about. So why not create something? And plus, my wife has always been giving back to kids. Anyways, even when she was in the Philippines, she was doing a lot of educational outreach to kids in need, right? So we were doing it out of our own pocket during the pandemic because everyone's locked at home. So we want to give the kids something to do. It all started with just giving out $100 to three random kids by a raffle to allow them to have three choices and let them see the consequences of the choices. Number one, to spend the money. Number two is to save the money. And number three is to invest the money.
Hmm.
And we gave them $100 each, right? So, and then, at the end of the following year, we showcase the consequences of each decision. Obviously, the one who spent it, it's gone bye-bye. The one who saved it, nothing happened. The one who invested might have a return on investment. So, about a year and a
But
half
the
ago,
richest man in Babylon.
richest man in Babylon, pretty much, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that's for those
The
listening.
basics.
That's an old school book, but there's that lesson in there. It's a cool
Absolutely.
lesson.
It's such an old school book, but it's so relevant, right?
Oh, 100%. It's
And
awesome.
for especially for kids who may not have the technical or tactician knowledge, yeah, just a basic concept of habits. And then about a year and a half ago, I said, you know what? We've been doing this out of our pocket for a while. Why not create? One of her friends asked, why not create a nonprofit organization out of it? And she's like, ah, I never thought of that. So she created that, and ever since then, she's been raising money for that organization. And I've pretty much been a designated volunteer, right? So a couple weeks ago, we trained a summer boot camp for the kids. It was a true blessing. We had some real business owners being um, sharks on a Shark Tank. We spent a whole week with them, advanced training. I mean, I love the fact that the kids don't they're very innocent because they haven't experienced life yet, right?
Hmm.
But to see certain adult concepts through their eyes was really an eye opener for me, because when the first lesson I had was the experience of employee. So the first thing we did was all exercise. Very very few lectures, because kids are they're bored with lectures, right?
Hmm.
And everyone make paper airplanes. And if they can throw the paper airplane across the room and it makes it there and hits the other side of the wall, they get four entrepreneur dollars, right? These are fake dollars.
Okay.
So some people made a lot of airplanes, some people made a few airplanes, and some people, were able to throw across the wall, and some people made $20, five to go out to the other side. Some people made like 20 airplanes, but none of them made across the room, right? So there are lessons around there. Abraham Lincoln saying that if you have 6 hours chopped on the tree, spend 4 hours sharpening your axe and 2 hours chopped
Hmm.
on the tree.
Hmm.
So they were busy making airplanes without learning anything. They could have used a resource and asked how to make paper airplanes, but they didn't, right? But then later on, this one kid made $20, made the most money. I said, okay, every child, calculate how much you earned, all right? And 50% of that money, put it in the middle of the table. So if you made $20, $10 goes to the middle of the table. I said, this represents the taxes you pay as a middle class American. Federal, state, county, personal property, all the taxes you pay, sales tax, everything, right? And then 25% you made goes in the center table. So you made $20, that's $5 additional. And that represents the rent or the mortgage, right? And then I asked them, what do you like to eat? What do you like to do for fun, right? And then they said, I like to go eat at Taco Bell, or I like to play Roblox or whatever, right? And so they put 25% remaining money into the middle table. That represents entertainment and food and expenses, right? So they're left with $0 at the end of the day after all that. And they said, you want to have fun again? You got to do it all over again, make more paper airplanes. And I said, this represents the rat race. So this little rat on TikTok running in circles, they start laughing. So they'll never
Yeah.
forget the laughing of that little rat, right? So this is what you call spinning your wheels. Working really hard, but getting nowhere.
Hmm.
So so I introduced them to the fast track of how to make passive income through businesses and real estate. We let them play the Rich Dad Cash Flow board game. They
Hmm.
had fun with
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
And at the end of the boot camp, they had to present a business concept with real money, real concepts, and real costs based on their research to 5 sharks. And these are real sharks, real business owners. They have millions of dollars in assets, and they want to see what the best deal is based on equity share. And they did a really good job. I mean, we had a lot of the parents were very impressed. They approached my wife, say, "Hey, how can we sponsor the next event? Because what you guys are doing are really good. They definitely don't learn this stuff in school, but
That's
more
cool.
importantly, they had fun and they'll never forget it." And the most thing is, when we're driving back from Atlanta, 2 kids reached out to my wife, and this is the power follow up, right? They reached out and said, "I want to pitch my idea to you guys." Right? We leave the door open for them, but out of, let's say, 20 kids, only 2 reached out. So 10%, that's the
Hmm.
ratio.
Hmm.
We had a Zoom call with them on Sunday on the way back up from Atlanta from our meeting, our networking event, and they presented their ideas. We recorded it, and we're considering them to help finance their business, get it up and going.
That's cool.
So it's
That's cool.
incredible. It's a real thrill. I love seeing kids learn these things because they don't learn it in school, and now my kids actually can talk to their friends on the same level because they got the same training. Right? They
Yeah.
don't feel left out or awkward anymore.
Well, what I hear from you is that you love the game, and so you love to teach the game, right? It's a game, and so you
Yes.
love playing it. Jan, if somebody wanted to reach out to you, learn more about what you guys are doing, learn more about what you guys are building, what's the best way?
Best way is probably email. My email address is info@fortunehomesteam.com, exactly as it's spelled back here, right?
Okay.
But I don't use my first name because people always misspell my first name, so that's why my email address is always info. Everyone can spell info, right? It's not like Rob; it's easy to spell,
Yeah,
right?
Rob's easy. Rob's easy. It's funny because my cousins they make fun of me because my name's Robert, right? But I wanted to make it easier for people.
Right.
Just Rob. Like Rob is so easy, right? Robert is like
Exactly.
a little bit more of a mouthful to say.
Exactly. Yeah,
Uh,
I've noticed a lot of because I'm my heritage is Vietnamese, right? My parents came from Vietnam, so my name is Vietnamese, and I've known a lot of Vietnamese people change their name to a more American name, like John or Sam or whatever, right? I chose not to because hey, we're all immigrants to this country. Everyone learned how to say Rob. Everyone learned how to say Jose. Everyone learned how to say John or whatever Smith. Why not learn how to say Jan, right? But I do understand the spelling.
it is tough because the spelling's like different, right? Like people on my team are like, "Is it Nan? Is it?" And I'm like, "It's Jan." They're like, "How is it Jan?"
Exactly. But then, you look at other names like John, for example. Why is the H there, right?
Well,
Is it
yeah, yeah, yeah.
John, right? So it's the same thing. It's just a
John.
process of generations to get that, right?
Yeah, it's so
So I
true.
might as well start the process now.
So true. So true. Well, Jan, thank you so much for joining the Ink and Flip podcast. Some things I want to kind of highlight here, pull out for anybody listening, especially those that are building. There was some wisdom here. You didn't cut the cord straight away. You proved to yourself that you had the ability to do deals, and then you cut the cord. Okay, so that was
Right,
number one. Two, it's always save for that unexpected hit that's going to happen, because you will get hit. Something will happen. It will
right,
never go according to plan. If it does, you're not taking enough risk. You're not working hard enough. You're not being loud enough. So just know that you're going to take some hits, and that's just part of the game. It's what makes you
right.
stronger in that game. The third thing that I picked up that you were saying is surround yourself with people that are doing things at 10x your level.
Right.
It allows you to dream bigger, aim bigger, and just play bigger in general, right? Money is just a concept.
Right.
And I tell my team members all the time, hey, it's just as easy to sell a $3 million house as it is a $300,000 house. But the commission in that is drastically different, because the clientele that you are working with is drastically, they're just at different stages, right? And so if you have the ability to play the game as big as you can possibly play it. The other thing that I picked up is, and I would urge you to think about this. I think I'm in a season where I'm thinking a lot about this, is really drill down on the thing that is the tip of the spear for your business. Even if you have these other vertically integrated businesses, there's one main one that you should put all of your energy and time into. And for you, it's capital raising, right? You know
Yes.
that you've
Yes.
you've you've got the capital raise, and everything will feed off of the capital raise. You've got your thesis for that, right?
Yes.
And then just the heart for helping the younger generation, being
Right.
able to learn the game, right? So that,
Right.
when they're in their 30s, 40s, 50s, they've got more options. They've got
Right.
optionality, right? They've got optionality. But I will caution people listening to this. It's not an easy game, right? It's a fun game, but it's not an easy game.
Right.
It's unless you, well, I should say it becomes easier when you surround yourself with the people that have already done it, so you don't make unnecessary mistakes, right? Because
Right.
sometimes there's the entrepreneurs that are out there that they try to do it by themselves in isolation, and then they dig themselves in a really, really big hole. And if they just ask for wise counsel, if they just asked, like, what am I not seeing here? They could have saved themselves hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, pain, aggravation, lawsuits, blah, 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 right? Lots of
Right.
stuff. And so seek wise counsel, because there are entrepreneurs, business owners, other real estate investors that have walked this path before you, and they're happy to share. Happy to
Right.
share.
Right.
So,
Awesome. And I'd like to also say that this business in real estate or any business, everyone can do it, but not everyone will do it. And we have to accept that, because sometimes I beat myself against the wall and say, hey, I'm encouraging them, I'm trying to drag them to success, but they're not lifting their own feet to do it on their own. And I drain myself from that.
oh
Because
yeah,
I see the good in everybody. I see the problems they have, and the problem can easily be solved if they did this and this and that. And I have all the answers, but they're not willing to do it. And I just have to set myself apart that it's not for everybody, right? And I can't drain myself and reduce my focus to people who deserve more of my time, because they're the ones doing all the work, right?
yeah, it's interesting because that's a leadership conversation right there.
Right.
I talk to my team members all the time. I'm like, listen, you can't want it more than they do. And part of it is I'm going to climb the hill, and they've got to keep up. I'm not
Right.
going to be pushing them. Like
Right.
I'm not going to be pushing them, because I've been there where I'm pushing them up the mountain, and that's exhausting. It's like, no,
Very exhausting.
I'm like, we're going to create an environment that allows you to thrive, and it's equal opportunity, unequal reward, because not everybody will do it, like you said.
That's right.
But those that do
Exactly.
it, their life gets abundantly better. And
Right.
those that don't, they go on to live.
Generally, the ones who don't, they kind of look back years later, either with regret or they say, well, I couldn't do it because of this. They'll blame something why they couldn't do it, right? And unfortunately, this is the way of the world, right? We just have
Yeah.
to get over that.
Yeah, we got to get over that. We got to find the ones that are not victim mentalities,
Right.
that are can do, have a big why, want to do it for whatever reason, themselves, their family, all the rest. I can't teach motivation and
Right.
hustle. I can find it and I can cultivate it and I can guide it and I can direct it. But for anybody listening right now, if you're building a team, it's like you've got to find that person that's got that sparkle in their eye and wants to build something big, and then just give them the right direction and the model playbook, and then get out of their way and let them do it. Right?
That's right.
It's that simple. It's that simple.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Leon, thank you so much for joining us today on the Income Flip podcast, man. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Appreciate you.